Today. Guys, we are going to be finishing with a little bit of chapter 3 today. That being said, our next event in this class is going to be our first test. But here's the deal. Today, you guys are going to pick when we're doing the test. I'm going to give you some options here because it doesn't matter to me. I give you the test no matter what. So it depends on when you want to take it. Now, guys, LinkedIn and our last ethics posting, that was an assignment way back from chapter 2. If you haven't done it yet, hit me up if you're having trouble. And LinkedIn, if you're still making changes. Last call, guys. In terms of other stuff that's going on, our next assignment was due on the 25th, and we're going to move it back now to the 28th. So it's going to be due on Monday instead of Friday because that was a truth or dare question, something we had not previously negotiated. Again, I'm asking you to pick a product, tell me why you like it, tell me where it's currently made, and tell me if you think it should still be made there or if you can move it somewhere else like the United States. What would be the challenges? One page should be plenty for this. One page, tell me your own opinions and apply some of the principles we've talked about. Guys, in terms of the continuum of taking products from one country to another, what's the easiest way to do it? Well, I'm thinking the Pittsburgh Steelers merchandise or licensing. We go to licensing, franchising, and we move on down the continuum. So some products are easier than others. So guys, here is your option. We have two options for our first test, either Monday, the 28th, or Wednesday, the 30th. It doesn't matter to me. We're going to be doing our first test together. If everybody in the class scores a B or better, we'll move our tests online. So I'm asking you to go to this poll and vote. I think it's going to be a very lopsided result. Some people do. Some people like having the weekend to study and get it over with. These are fair options, don't you think?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, some people like Monday, some people like Wednesday. So give everybody a chance to vote. Because we're all about democracy in here, guys. Yes, sir.
Did you put a study guide out?
I did not. After we finish chapter 3, I'll be giving you guys a study guide. All right, we're going in 3, 2, and 1, and our test will be on the 30th. Now what we'll do, guys, we'll probably be finishing our chapter today, which means for our online Friday, we'll do a review of chapter 3. Once we do that review, I'll be sending you guys out a study guide, and we'll also talk a little bit more about the test. So we all good to go, guys? We good? As promised, I asked you guys, if you would, to send me pictures of your pets. What I'm going to be doing on the next couple of slides, then we're going to get into the material for today. See, we're trying to get you guys in. We're getting your brains moving on a Wednesday morning. When the picture of your pet comes up, I would like you to tell me something about your pet, the name and something about them. So we have two pets here, and I believe, I don't remember whose pets these are. Whose are these? Tell me about these pets.
Major is the German Shepherd, and he's very hyper, and then Sarge is the pit bull, and he's like super lazy.
And who's the boss?
Probably Major, because he's like more hyper, and he always tries to like herd Sarge.
And how old are these guys?
Sarge is 3 and Major's 4.
Oh, that's great. They got lots of life left in them. Their dogs are awesome. Actually, just having pets in general. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Nick, tell us about this dog.
This is my dog Jax. We rescued him last September. He was left on the side of the road in Arkansas in the middle of summer.
So you literally just picked him up?
We didn't pick him up, but someone posted about it, and we ended up bringing him in. We already had 2 dogs. It was right after one of our other dogs died. We didn't want to leave the bigger, older dog alone, so we got her another friend, and he's crazy.
That's awesome.
He's
Good dog?
Yeah.
Rescue is the way to go. All right, how about this handsome fella? Elena.
That's my dog, his name's Finnegan, and he loves taking naps.
So he's kind of a lazy dog. And how old is Finnegan?
7.
Wow, that's great. Dogs are great companions. And we have not one, but 2 critters here who are getting on all kinds of stuff. Whose pets are these? Tell us about these guys.
So the black cat, his name is Chick, and the gray one is Cosmo. And Chick literally is insane. He'll literally like try and climb up the walls like he's a crackhead.
And somebody likes getting into the Christmas lights too, apparently. Awesome. How about this handsome devil? Yes.
That's Franny. this summer, so I think he's 5 months old now. But we got him as a companion for another French bulldog.
Awesome. Now, how big will he get?
He'll get pretty chunky. I mean, he'll probably get like this.
I love the ears on those guys. They're great. And whose dog do we have here? Paige, what tell us the story of this guy?
His name's Duke. He's a Boston Terrier, Jack Russell. He loves pancakes. And he just turned 7.
Wow, and these guys, this breeds can live to be 20 years old. So they're long living dogs. Is he incredibly hyper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He likes to like snuggle and loves being covered.
They never really quit being puppies. And whose handsome dog is this?
Mine.
Tell us about this guy.
That's Manfred. He's a German Shepherd, and that picture was taken at Niagara Falls, and he's 10 years old.
Wow, so he goes everywhere with you guys?
Yep.
That's great. Dogs are family. So are cats. And I love this Basset Hound. Whose Basset is this? Yes.
That's Tug. He's out for we rescued him from Alabama.
Wow. So is he pretty laid back, or is he high strung?
Yeah, he's really lazy. I have another Basset Hound who's like really fat, so he just lays around.
They have the best voices too. And when they bark or howl, they sound bigger and more ferocious than they are. And this is my dog. His name is Willis. He's helping me study here some research methodology. He's a Jack Russell Terrier. He's now 9 pounds, full grown at 3 years old. That's when he was a puppy, and has more energy than any living thing I've ever encountered. You cannot wear him out. I can take him on a 7-mile hike, and he'll come home and want to play. Yes.
Do you know things like this, bro?
Well, if I let him go, he would take off, and I'd never catch him again. True. So you have a Jack Russell as well? And what's your Jack Russell's name? Nice. My Jack Russell one day escaped when I opened the door, and I only caught him back because a member of the Altoona track team happened to be in my neighborhood, and this kid took after him. I'd have never caught this dog. So, guys, I sent you guys out a link 2 times for Lockdown Browser. How many of you have already installed it? Okay. Guys, what I would like you to do, if you have not installed it, please do. But what I'm going to ask you to do right now, actually, is to go onto Canvas, and under Chapter 3, you're going to see a thing called Lockdown Browser Test. Now, it is not a graded exam. There are no points involved. What I want you to do today is to learn how to use Lockdown Browser. So when you fire up Lockdown, it's going to ask you to shut down everything else on your computer if you haven't used it before. All I want to do is make sure that you guys can actually access it. So you're going to, it may take a minute to update too. So we're going to take a minute in class today for this, simply so you guys are ready for the test next Wednesday. It will, if you're running PowerPoint, it will make you shut that down and restart. What the whole point of lockdown is essentially to make sure your computer is not allowing you to go to the website. So when you get in, you can log right into your, Canvas and be able, yeah, there you go. Yep. Very good. Are you guys all able to get in back here? Get in okay? Now the code, when it asks you for the code, I'm going to write the code on the board for you because I always put a code with my lockdown test so that people have to know this to access the test. The code for this test is 2112. Working for you okay? Yeah, it'll make you lock down everything on your computer. There you go.
I've never had read at the end.
Hey man, I'm fancy like that. Go ahead and click on, actually if you already have it downloaded, cancel that. Yep. And go ahead and click on yes. Go back to your, finish. Go back to your desktop. Just right on your computer there.
Oh, just go on.
Yeah, right on your desktop on your computer. There it is. It should be an icon right on your computer, right on the. And again, we do this to make sure the day of test everything works well. Working okay for you? Still installing? Okay. These are really, really difficult questions I gave you on this test too. Getting in okay over here? Yep, 2112. And don't worry, guys, you're not getting graded on this. This is just to make sure it works for you guys. Let's take a look. Go ahead. Actually, you're going to go to modules. And scroll down to chapter 3. And lock down browser test. Yep. And you click on take the quiz. And then review it. Yep. Yes, sir. Actually, let's see. You know what you might have to do? You already have it, actually. Click on it one more time, because you might actually have to restart. Occasionally, yeah, go ahead and restart your computer. Yeah, just go. Oh, wow, it just disappeared. See what happens. There we go. Yes, yeah. Again, this is where we do this ahead of time. Oh, here's close it out. You actually have to use the browser.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually a secure browser. That's the biggest mistake we always have on this thing. Anybody else having trouble? How many of you successfully already taken the exam? So we got some problems over here and here. Let's see.
No, I tried to.
Oh, you took it?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, go ahead and cancel that. Okay, hold on, no. Go ahead to close your web browser there. Right there it is. It's actually a secure web browser. And now you click on yes. You have to, it'll keep on saying, anytime it brings up the menu, you have to close something, just keep on clicking, yeah, yes. What it's doing is whether we realize it or not, there's all kinds of programs running in the background on our computers. They're tracking us and doing all kinds of things, and this shuts all of this down too. Okay, and okay back here? Yeah. Let's see if the restart helps. Still crashing on you, huh? Let me see one thing on here. Again, this is why we test this stuff. So when you restarted, did you do a restart or a power up? Yeah, power down. It's still a full power down. Yeah. You might need to go to the help desk for this computer. So yeah, you end up having to hit the power button, huh? Yeah, I think you have some system problems going on here. We're going to try a hard restart like this. Sometimes with these, what you have to do is actually pull the battery out, which you need a screwdriver to do. Anybody else having issues? It's not your fault. It's the computer. What I'm going to do, this, I've asked you if you going today, is to have yourself a laptop help desk over in the library. Make sure they get you set up. Tell them what you're trying to do with locking up browser. Okay. Anybody else have an issue? So let's say what
You should call this 112.
2112. All right, there you go. Anybody else having challenges, guys? All right, guys, if it's not working on your computer, we'll have to have you swing by the help desk. Feel free to do that test very quickly because it won't take more than a minute. We're going to get into today's material. Guys, we left off talking about culture. Can somebody give me an example of something that might work well in the United States, but might not work well in another country? What might be some way we can unintentionally offend somebody in another country? I'll give you a hint. President Bush. Yeah. What does that mean in another country? In Australia? It means take down one of the fingers. Absolutely right. Guys, one of the other things too, if you go to certain areas of the world, for example, you don't want to shake hands with your left hand because that could be unclean in certain cultures. Different cultures, by the way, have different business cultures than we do. Guys, what are things? If you think about meetings, if you think about going to business meetings in American business culture, what are things that people appreciate in American business culture? When you think about people, yes?
Nice attire.
Yeah, formal attire, yes. Handshakes, that's a big one. Like, how many of you have ever had somebody who tried to break your hand when they gave you a handshake? Yeah, it's too much. But if it's too light, it's considered to be a limp fish. And so you need to have a firm handshake. Some cultures don't use handshakes. In Japan, what is the customary greeting? They bow. And there's a whole school of thought in terms of how far you bow. Like, for example, Derek, will you stand up for a second? Come out to the front here. Let's say Derek were my superior. I work for Derek. We're getting ready. We're having a business meeting, and we're going to bow. I'm going to bow further than he is. You're going to come down about that far. I'm going to go down this far. I'm bowing further than him because he's my boss. And that is a part of Japanese business culture. Thank you for sharing that with me, Guy. Guys, some of the other things in terms of culture, we can be more direct. In the United States, we like to be very direct. We have a saying called bluff. And that stands for bottom line up front. Time is money in our culture, so we like meetings to run very quickly. We like to get to the point. If you go to an Asian country, in particular Japan, guys, do you know how you check into a meeting in Japan? They have a plastic box outside the meeting room. Anybody know what that's for? Any guesses? It's not for sharps. It's not for insulin. It's for your cell phone. You drop your phone in the plastic box, because when you're in that meeting, you're supposed to completely engage with the people around you. And those meetings can run for long periods of time, and trust is built very over long periods of time. So those are things that can be different around culture. So what it comes down to, guys, is make sure to know the culture you're operating within before you try to do business there. So we're going to end that part here. Why is this stuff so important? It's because we're doing business all over the world, guys. We have global brands these days, whether it's Heineken or whether it's Kellogg's. We do business in a lot of countries. Guys, can somebody tell me what is a challenge to doing business with a multinational corporation? What might be a challenge if we're in one country and trying to do business in another? We talked about culture. What else might be a challenge? We'll go 1, 2 here. Yes.
Like what McDonald's sells in different countries, that play a part in it, like how they sell different stuff in Japan than they do here.
Regional tastes, absolutely, yes. Currency, for sure. Breon, what might be another challenge? Help me out. What might be another challenge? Time zone, absolutely. Different things, different operational things that come into play. We have, by operating globally, we have a greater consumer base. What's the number one auto market in the world right now? It's not the United States. Who is it?
England.
It is not England, actually. It's not Japan. One more guess, it's an Asian country. It's China, because they have a growing middle class and all of a sudden people can afford cars. So you want to get out and have more potential customers. If you go to different places in the world, different people have different skill sets. Some of the disadvantages could be if we go to foreign countries, for example, we have the whole moral challenge of whether or not we're paying appropriate wages. And we also, by the way, guys, sell products in other countries that we can't sell here because of health regulations. Who here has ever heard of a product called DDT? It was a pesticide sold in the United States up until the 1970s. It was proven to be very carcinogenic, and we sold it in other countries for many years. In addition, guys, because the developing world, as well as the first world, we're getting a lot of competition these days. And a lot of the brands that used to mean a big deal are not a big deal anymore. How many of you guys would be excited about owning a Cadillac? That used to be the biggest luxury brand in the United States. It's losing its luster. Some of the other issues too, guys, if you had to guess, the most prestigious American auto brand in China, what is it? Because it's not Cadillac. Who is it? Think about your grandparents. It's not VW. It's an American brand. Good guess. Buick. Seriously, when you guys think of Buick, what are the images that come to your mind? That is an old people car. If you look at the dashboard in a Buick, for example, the speedometer is this big. It's like they have enormous bumpers so that if you hit a wall going 50 miles an hour, you barely move. That's the essence of Buicks. It's like driving a waterbed. But they are absolutely the most popular American brand in China, and they are still considered to be a status symbol. We are getting more and more competition from other countries, guys. What do China, India, and Africa have in common? Guys, we have very high-tech economies that are emerging out of these countries. The United States, yep, we designed the iPhone here. We came up with the operating system. We manufacture in China. China and India are large producers of code. If you look at what are going to be popular types of things for the coming decade, people who can develop apps, people who can develop intellectual property are going to be the people who are ruling the business class. Guys, we also have increased awareness of knowing that bad things happen in other countries, meaning consumers are concerned from where their products are coming from. And climate change, whether or not you believe it's man-made, is happening. We are having places that are getting hit harder, and generally speaking, lower income populations are hit harder by climate change. Why is that? Any guesses? Disproportionately, where do low income populations in the world center on? Coastal areas and the equator. So when water rises, when we have rising sea levels, these are the first folks to feel the pinch. And we see it even in our country. If you had seen, for example, the hurricanes that hit back in the early 2000s in New Orleans, the vast majority of people who were affected by that were low-income individuals. So where is the money? If we said, hey, by population, who makes the most money per person? It's not the United States. My wealth estimate was right around $45,000. The GDP, if you divided it by every American, comes out to about $57,000. If you go to Luxembourg, which, by the way, is one of the finance capitals of the world, right next to Germany, very influenced by German culture, obviously, over $103,000 a year, their GDP means that if you broke it down, the amount of income that everybody is making by the population, it's a small country and everybody is making pretty good money. The GDP divided by Americans, I thought, was a little bigger than I was expecting. So, guys, in terms of other countries, this rounds out the bottom part of it. We get into other things too, guys. Our gross national income basically means if we take all the wealth that we are creating in our GDP and we also pull in the income we're making from other countries, that's our gross national income. So our GDP is how much money is moving through our economy at any given point in time. Our GNI, our gross national income, means once we have our balance of payments, this is how much money we have in our whole ecosystem, inclusive of those things. And one other term, I would write this term down. We know we have raw materials. We know that we have wood, and we have coal, and we have water and grain, and all these things we use to make things. But final goods are what ultimately gets produced from those. You remember I said, guys, that we have a lot of raw material that's being exported from the United States to other countries. For example, leather, for example, wood products. They're being produced into final goods in countries outside of the United States. That's something we would like to see change. It would be great to see more things get made here, but it's challenging. Guys, why is it so challenging, by the way, to produce more stuff in the United States? What are the challenges? Yes?
Minimum wage is higher here than it is in Mexico. I think it was $1.40.
Yeah. That's exactly right. We have a higher minimum wage, for example. What else is more difficult about producing stuff in the United States than other countries? So the wage is a big one. That is the biggest one. What else might play a factor? Yes?
Maybe resources. We don't have as many natural resources that, like, for example, Africa has for all
For specific products, you're absolutely correct. By the way, I don't know if you guys heard the news this morning. Tesla wants to start producing their own batteries. Did anybody know Tesla's lowest cost car? What does it cost? Yeah, brand new. Their cheapest model. It's around 48K. They want to get it down to 28K by producing their own batteries. If they can produce an electric car for 28K, they will absolutely dominate parts of this market. Because think about this, guys. If you had a car that you never had to buy gas for 10 years for $28,000, the average price of a new car in the United States is right around $30,000. So they actually want to undercut the price of a traditional gas engine. That's going to be good for their company, don't you think? Yes.
So is that like a car that like it won't drive itself? It can't do lane like is it that kind of stuff? Like it's not the fancy one where you can fall asleep and it drives itself.
That's a great point. I think you're going to see a lot of downgrades. I don't think you're going to get all that stuff for 28K. But let's think about it for a second. If I have a choice between my Mazda 3, which is a traditional combustion engine, 0 to 60 in maybe 8 seconds, versus a Tesla that's all electric, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds for the same price, pretty interesting comparison, yes.
If they were to do that, like, just a little bit about stocks, like, how much would their stock, like, skyrocket in, like, one day? If they were to be able to, like, get their own battery?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because that's something we're actually talking about. Now, I don't know where we're at with the numbers today, but in terms of pre-market trading, in our next chapter, we're going to be talking about securities. Tesla stock actually took a hit because a lot of people think that Elon Musk is going too aggressive, that he can't pull it off, that he's promising more than he can deliver. So if he's successful, holy shit, if he's successful and can make a car for $28,000 with what they're calling 10-year batteries, I can't imagine how anybody would catch him. So yes.
Is he making it for 28 or would he be selling it?
Selling it for 28. Yeah, so basically you're competing with traditional gasoline cars for 28,000. Yeah, the average. By the way, do you guys know what the average car payment is in the United States right now? Monthly. About $600. And people are taking it out for 6 years. Don't ever do that. Yes.
Could this like possibly mess it up, like with the battery and stuff like that? Like, can problems go wrong with the battery in the car and things like that?
Oh, sure. Teslas are not without controversy. Those batteries have caught on fire, and there's times that in wrecks, people question how safe they are.
Is it safe? Is it safe to do? Like, you think
I think that from what I've seen, I would probably want to read up on it more before I bought one. But that being said, I think that's something they can probably work out. You guys like Tesla, yes?
So like as an adult who like other people may, but like I don't pay for my own car. Like should I have someone who pays for their car solely? Would you do it?
If it were safe.
If you knew it was 100% safe, you knew like if you got hit a certain way, it wasn't gonna blow up. Like
I probably would.
you would.
And here's the deal. Like I have a very specific taste in automobiles. Like I like cars with hatchbacks. Like my next car is probably going to be a Mazda 3 5-door because I like small performance cars. If they can make something comparable to that car for the same price, and I can get an electric car that I never have to put gas in, yeah, sign me up, man. And have you guys ever heard of something called ludicrous mode? You can download software for Tesla. It'll go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Yeah, sign me up, man. I like driving fast. I like driving fast. Well, guys, let's keep going. I appreciate the questions. We're going to finish this chapter today, however. If you want to go for the largest companies in the world, the largest multinational corporations, it's no shock that Walmart is up near the top of the list. However, Walmart does the most revenue. Can anybody guess who's consistently been the most profitable? Who has been the most profitable? Take a guess. Because they're on this list as well. Think about companies that are really good in terms of generating revenue and keeping it. Maybe a company that most of you have, I was going to say most of you have regular contact with. Apple has been consistently, they're not always on top on revenue, but in terms of profit, because they build a large profit margin into their products and they don't discount. If I want a new iPhone 11, if I want the 11 Pro, if I want to go high end with a big drive, what am I going to pay for that phone? At least, it's $1,100 if I don't get a subscription. The days of cheap cell phones are over. So we talked about how politics can play. Right now we know we're in a trade war with China, and we know that we're trying to figure that stuff out because everybody wants to do business. We talked about the idea of culture. We talked about how different economies can create opportunities. And we also talked about multinational corporations. The biggest advantage, actually, let me ask you guys. If you had to say, based on what we've talked about today, what's the biggest advantage of having a multinational corporation? What would it be? What's the biggest advantage? Somebody on this side of the room, hook me up today. What would be an advantage of a multinational corporation? Help me out. Yes. More customers. We have greater reach, greater resources, and greater intellectual capital potential. So, guys, in terms of world trade, some of the other things we talked about very briefly. This is my belief, and I encourage you to have your own belief on this. I think what's going to encourage global trade to continue is the idea, first of all, we've got to settle some of these trade disputes we have. China has interest in continued trade with us, and we have interest in continued trade with China. It has to be done in a way that is fair and equitable. And so having some transparency and fairness between trade. By the way, that issue, regardless of what political party you're in, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or an independent, everybody wants jobs to come back to the United States. We all want that. And so we want fair international trade. And some of the other things that we also want to do is empower some of our growing economies. I will say this I will go on the record to say, if I were in control of international business and international investment for the United States, I'd be investing in Africa. They've got a very skilled workforce. They've got folks who are getting high-tech training. They have a young population who wants to be a part of the global economy. And also, they've got vast stretches of natural resources that can be equitably distributed and done in an ethical fashion so we don't have kids who are digging up cobalt for cell phone batteries. I think we have a chance to really partner with the African continent in this regard. And that, my friends, is our lecture for today. Just a reminder, the assignment that was due Friday is now going to be due on Monday. When is your exam? Your exam is on Wednesday. After Friday online, we're going to review for the test. I will send you a study guide. Other questions, guys? Have a wonderful day.